Hey everyone, my name is Brian Fong. I'm on the enterprise product marketing team here at Slack. And thank you for joining this session, Explore Enterprise Grade Security at Slack. Besides myself, you'll be hearing from our Chief Security Officer, Larkin Ryder. In addition, Aaron Browning, Senior Security Engineer at Slack. They'll be talking about Slack security posture, discuss some of the most recent innovations we've released, and give you a sneak peek into our product roadmap. And we're very, very lucky to have David Patton, CIO of Investment Banking and Capital Markets from Credit Suisse, join us. David will be sitting down with Larkin for a great one-on-one interview to understand David's role at Credit Suisse, along with how he's keeping his teams connected during the pandemic. Here's the obligatory legal language, since we'll be discussing some roadmap features during today's session. So with COVID-19 and the pandemic, organizations are adopting cloud solutions faster than ever to keep their teams connected. It's really truncated digital transformation from years to months. And so as all these companies are now entangled in this new digital world, pushing more into the cloud, security is more important than ever. Cybersecurity threats are spiking right now. With phishing scams and spam, bad actors are really taking advantage of COVID-19 to attack the remote workforces and the systems that they use. So at Slack, we offer an enterprise-grade collaboration solution to help all of you keep your teams connected, to drive that productivity, increase alignment, and act with speed. And it needs to be one that's enterprise-grade secure. So as you're navigating between the office or working at home, you need to trust a platform like Slack. And as we want to learn more about security, it's important to hear about the program that Slack offers. And that's where I'm really excited to introduce the Chief Security Officer at Slack, Larkin Ryder, to tell you more.
Thanks, Brian. What's unique and differentiates Slack is that we provide an experience users love while still meeting security and compliance requirements. Enterprise-grade security is built into every aspect of how users collaborate and get work done in Slack. There are three pillars that define security at Slack. First, compliance. We meet or exceed some of the most broadly recognized security standards. We offer solutions to help you address your compliance requirements. Our security program earns top certifications and attestations while also helping you meet specific industry regulations. Next, operations. Our dedicated security team uses industry-accepted best practices and frameworks, keeping your data safe. We use a defense-in-depth, risk-based security model with controls to manage the physical, technical, and administrative risks of our operating environment. Finally, capabilities. We understand that every company is different, and we provide you with the security features for your control, visibility, and flexibility to be optimized. For example, there's no other collaboration solution that gives you the option to bring your own encryption keys. We'll be talking more about Slack's enterprise key management solution a bit later in the presentation. Let's dive into each of the three pillars in a little more detail. Starting first, our security program maintains compliance with ISO 27001, 27017 and 18, SOC 2 Type 2, SOC 3. We also align with the requirements of the Cloud Security Alliance. We help you meet specific industry regulations and international security and data privacy standards that pertain to you, including FINRA, HIPAA, FedRAMP, data residency, and GDPR. In May, Slack achieved a FedRAMP agency authority to operate at the moderate impact level issued by the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. To support this FedRAMP moderate authorization, Slack maintains compliance with over 300 rigorous security controls. U.S. public sector organizations now have the ability to run more of their workloads using Slack's collaboration platform. So what's next? Well, We're currently gathering feedback from potential customers and performing technical scoping as we work towards achieving a FedRAMP High authorization and ITAR compliance. For organizations who want to store their data at rest in countries or regions outside the US, they now have the option to do so with our data residency capability. Since late last year, we've launched 6 data regions in Germany, France, Japan, Australia, the UK, and Canada. Our dedicated security team uses industry-accepted best practices and frameworks keeping your data safe, and there are some areas of that effort I want to highlight here. First, we use encryption at rest and in transit. We employ strong cipher suites and appropriate protocols. Next, our network security and server hardening systems are supporting testing and development activities in completely separate networks. All of the servers within our production fleet are hardened according to the Center for Internet Security's benchmarks. We follow a defined secure software development lifecycle. This is a robust process, and it leverages our own tool we've created, available via open source, GoSDL. For administrative access, Slack employs multi-factor authentication for access to any systems by Slack employees, including those in our production environment. Slack limits access and reviews access lists quarterly. We monitor all servers and workstations continuously. We retain and analyze a comprehensive view of the security state of our infrastructure, storing forensic logs in a separate AWS account, which is accessible only to security personnel. Slack engages independent entities to conduct application level and infrastructure level penetration tests at least annually. Now I'd like to turn it over to Aaron, who will cover the capabilities we offer our customers to help them keep their data protected.
Thanks, Larkin. Protecting access to internal resources and equipment is even more critical now that many of us work from home. Slack has a mature mobile device management model and features. So if an employee loses their phone or laptop, you can log them out of Slack and protect your data. We also provide features that work with EMM, MDM, and MAM solutions. In our mobile apps, we offer native blocking of jailbroken or rooted devices. We also check client app versions and ensure a minimum version is in use. We have long provided access management controls like two-factor authentication and domain claiming. You can use single sign-on to manage access to Slack, and you can provision users and groups via tools like SCIM. While you're transitioning between on-prem and virtual offices, Slack allows you to still host Slack on our servers while maintaining full control of your data. As Larkin mentioned earlier, we offer a feature called Slack Enterprise Key Management, or EKM, to help give you extra control and visibility over your data. It operates on a zero trust model. What that means is Slack EKM allows you to manage your own encryption keys using Amazon Key Management Services, or KMS. What's unique about EKM, and unlike any other solution in the market, is it's designed to maintain all of Slack's features and performance and allow administrators to gradually revoke key access, enabling your teams to continue working in Slack. Bring your own device is old news. Now it's all about bringing your own encryption keys. While we're on the topic of protecting your data, let's also talk about data loss prevention. We're frequently asked, in fact, it's one of the most frequent customer questions we get on the security team. Do you support data loss prevention services, or DLP services? And yes, we do. We have an API that connects with leading DLP solutions that scan content within Slack messages and files. This helps prevent personally identifiable information like credit card numbers, social security numbers, etc., from being shared within your Slack workspaces. I'm also excited to share the recent release of Slack's integration with Splunk. You can now feed activity data from Slack's Audit Logs API directly into Splunk. You can easily visualize your users' actions in pre-built dashboards, so you don't have to go through a ton of configuration. And these dashboards will showcase logins, file actions, apps installed, permissions, shared channel actions, and admin actions. So what if you want to collaborate with external organizations? You can now use Slack Connect to do this. You can move your conversations with partners, suppliers, industry peers, customers, and others out of email and into Slack. The benefits are big. Faster communication, stronger relationships, use your Reacties, more transparency, and heightened security. Unlike email, which leaves users open to the risk of spam and phishing, when everyone works in channels, teams receive messages and files only from verified members. No spammers allowed. With Slack Connect, admins can maintain control over their organization's data and monitor external access. What's more, all of Slack's enterprise-grade security features and compliance standards also extend to Slack Connect. Slack's security program is committed to Slack's app ecosystem, which we believe can be a happy marriage between customizing Slack with apps and protecting the integrity and confidentiality of your data. With app permissions, admins can ensure apps only request and access the minimum amount of information needed. We recently released new granular tokens that make it even easier to reduce the access an app must request. In our app directory, each app's listings contain security and compliance information shared by the app's developer, so you know which apps will meet your organization's security standards. I'll now toss it back over to Larkin, who will give you a preview of what's on our roadmap.
Thanks, Erin. So let's move on and talk about what we're planning to release in the near future. In the coming weeks, Slack will offer functionality that allows your organization to set up information barriers within Slack. These barriers can be configured by Slack admins to prevent specific user groups from messaging or calling other groups of users within your organization. In practice, an investment bank could manage one group for traders in Slack and another for investment bankers working in the same Slack team. The two groups could be configured so that they cannot communicate with each other, but can still collaborate with other members of the organization. This level of granular control allows admins to meet rules and regulations without blocking organization-wide collaboration. We talked earlier about Slack Connect, and we're continuing to invest here to bolster security and eliminate potential phishing scams or spam, while enabling your team to collaborate efficiently with partners, customers, and vendors. Later this month, we'll be allowing teams to pre-approve connections with organizations they specify. Once the admin has added an organization to the team's pre-approval list, future shared channels may be created with that organization without the need for additional admin approval. So why is this important? Well, you may have a trusted set of partners or customers with whom you want to set up multiple channels, and now you can do that quickly without the overhead of additional approvals. Streamlining this process allows users to move more quickly and removes extra work for your admins. The bring your own device approach to workplace technology puts admins and security teams in a tricky spot. Employees prefer to keep personal information private, and admins have an obligation to keep corporate data secure. Although admins don't manage an employee's personal device in every instance, they need enough access to wipe sensitive data clean if, say, the employee's personal device is lost or stolen. Fortunately, there are solutions. Later this year, Slack will offer support for Microsoft Intune Mobile Application Management, or MAM. Both Intune managed and unmanaged devices will be covered. Users will also be able to copy and paste data between Slack and other Intune managed and secured applications. And now, I'm very pleased to welcome our special guest, David Patten, CIO of Investment Banking and Capital Markets from Credit Suisse. Hello, David.
Hi, Larkin. Thank you for having me today. Sorry we couldn't do this in person, I guess. So.
I'm sorry about that in every aspect of my life, but next year we'll plan for it, okay?
Of course, yeah, you bet.
So explain to those who are not familiar with Credit Suisse what the company does.
Sure. So I guess Credit Suisse is a global bank. We offer wealth, investment banking, and financial services. I'm actually part of our IB Capital Markets business. It's actually now, through a recent reorg, called Capital Markets and Advisory. So I head technology, and I'm based in New York. I'm actually at Connecticut at home now, but normally I'd be in the New York office.
And as I'm sure all of us are aware, New York has been doing a great job managing their situation. I'm a little bit jealous. I think California's had some challenges. All of that, of course, is informing the work we're doing every day, the way we're working every day, the fact that we're now distributed. Tell me about your top priorities this year as a CIO.
So I think, really COVID reshaped those priorities in March. I think like for any large enterprise, or bank, the things we were reacting to really started to kind of set a different track in terms of what we wanted to prioritize the rest of the year and go forward. And I think arguably, disrupted some of the traditional approaches to the workforce. I guess the two sort of fronts where we're, now prioritizing is really around that sort of kind of catalyst or that movement into the cloud as part of digital transformation. Then the second, of course, is collaboration itself. And, we're challenged, I think, like with everyone, almost overnight working to a fully remote model, both internally and then, more recently trying to adapt to a new normal with how we operate with our clients as well. So I don't necessarily think it's sort of, reshaped where we're trying to get to. If anything, it's just accelerated what we're seeing as a kind of modern workforce. So again, it's been a very, very dynamic few months. And I think, again, with our partnership with Slack, amongst other companies, we're really helping rethink what that workforce looks like and rethink, our approach to public cloud.
Yeah, the acceleration of digital transformation is something I've heard from a lot of Slack customers, of course. But security still has to be top of mind while you're making these kind of big structural changes. I'm interested to know how you work with your own security team to ensure that as you're moving to more cloud services, you're staying secure and compliant.
So I think, whether we host kind of on-prem or, as part of a public cloud service that we own or a SaaS service, we're still operating to the same bar, whether it's data privacy, compliance, and just our general kind of security posture. So those levels are still there. And I think, as we're now accelerating the use of cloud, we're really starting to, look at a lot of these situations case by case. I think what we find is that, a lot of our cloud providers that we work with, the vendors we work with, offer, relatively kind of bespoke ways of ensuring security and presenting their security posture. And of course, depending what the service is, we have a relatively bespoke requirement of what we want that service to do. But I think all in all, we are seeing kind of sort of common requests and, common sort of standards in security. I think, earlier you touched on things like, bring your own key and enterprise key management. I mean, there are things that, really help us, get confidence around the data privacy model and a security model overall.
Yeah, that's something I've heard consistently, especially from financial services. The difficulty in going to the cloud is definitely supported by a bring your own key model. Of course, that's something that Slack has offered for a while now, and I know is quite valuable to our financial services organizations. I'm curious beyond that, though, when you're purchasing cloud software, what are some of the top security requirements vendors need to meet? You mentioned that, you feel like you have some bespoke requirements. This is your chance, tell the vendors out there who aspire to work with you what kinds of things they need to be sure and check the box on.
Sure. Well, I think the kind of the typical range, again, I don't think these are going to be necessarily surprises to folks out there, but if we look at a new SaaS product, I mean, first of all, that kind of level of kind of confidence around the security and compliance really is the opening questions, we have. I think, if we can't get that right, it really does start to challenge using the capability itself. The challenge on top of that, actually, just from my experience, having been on a few attempts over the last few years, is kind of achieving and getting to some of the security standards without actually compromising the capability itself. It's very easy to kind of fully lock down and fully encrypt at rest and put all these, large kind of control measures in place. But if you're starting to compromise the capability, or you're putting onerous complexity around how we would manage that and compromising security elsewhere, then you're sort of losing the reason of why you look at the agility in that SaaS product to start with. I do think, if you were to categorize the themes that we or the lenses we look at this through, I mean, first of all, data privacy and data management is key. Just making sure that we have security to our level and controls around the data and and how that data is managed and kind of who has access to it. I mean, that's probably one of the leading kind of discussions and evaluations we have. The second, again, you mentioned earlier in some of the slides, extending that, if you look at the granularity of information barriers and data management within that. So even within our organization, how do we ensure that we're upholding walls between private and public side and so on. I think you also touched on identity as well. That is not just important for the security efficacy and how we extend identity within our organization, but it's also important to get it right from a convenience perspective. Like, how does that user, when they're on the go on a mobile device, be able to access Slack quickly without putting in 10 forms of authentication? How do we know the factors of authentication they've got are good enough as well? So I mean, those are very typical things. And then I think like we have traditionally, lots of considerations around data retention and visibility management and just the operational stability of the service itself. So again, I think many of these things, we're seeing a lot of commonality around how they're being tackled. There's obviously nuances between that. And I think even within Credit Suisse, different departments may have different levels of data privacy requirement as well. So it is, again, as I said earlier, it's very typically a case by case. But I think, as we are an industry, I think we're becoming more organized around what we're asking for and what we expect from a cloud-based provider.
Yeah, I loved your example of the user on the go needing to be able to access the data directly from their phone. Certainly, the whole point of having a collaboration platform is to enable the ability of your user base, enable them to be more agile, enable them to have a more seamless experience. And as you're pivoting into the cloud and looking for services that provide that capability, a collaboration platform like Slack certainly has to be at the forefront of the ability to do that. Because if you can't contact your employees, if your employees can't engage with each other, that becomes a sincere impediment. And somewhat related to that, having that collaboration platform be a focal point for how data is shared across your business, having interconnected applications. I'm curious how that creates security challenges for you. It can be very enabling for the user, but it can create security challenges for the organization, or maybe it's part of the security solution.
Sure. I think it's, first of all, I think when we look at Slack, or just kind of thread-based, channel-based communication in general, it is a different paradigm to traditional email. And I think where you draw the analog or the comparables in terms of security has been, typically one of discussion. But the key thing for us, and again, this is something that you'd highlighted as well, I think being able to manage and maintain and audit, the kind of the flow of activity and correspondence within the platform, and who has access to what. I think those are really the fundamentals that for internal collaboration that are key to kind of getting comfortable. Now, I think if you look at what a platform like Slack offers, arguably it almost like levels up some of the control and the distribution management and some of the addresses some of the security challenges you have with traditional email and rights management content and so on. So, I think when we look at Slack, we see a very strong opportunity to kind of change that security paradigm, or at least change that kind of control lens, but enhance it compared to some of the traditional tools as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I'm looking forward to how that collaboration model and that security paradigm will eventually be able to extend beyond the walls of the organization with some of the new features that we're offering. I think people view that as complicating their security model, but having a consistent security model, I think, really benefits teams, and bringing that channel-based communication paradigm to the relationships you have outside your organization. I think you'll get all the benefits of the oversight that you were alluding to earlier.
And I must, just to add, I think we talk about collaboration. I think earlier I referenced collaboration. Out of the gate in March, internal collaboration was a management focus. And how do we make the distance working model work? How do we allow our teams to better collaborate? And the second order or the secondary requirement that came shortly after that was extending that into external partners and clients and so on. And the difference there is, of course, you start to see demand coming in where we're being asked to join into communities or conversations that are over Slack. And so I think, as you mentioned, something like Slack Connect really does help sort of start to extrapolate that into external conversation as well. And as we know, we're currently exploring that at Credit Suisse also. But that does present an opportunity, not just as a new thing to have, but a new way to kind of operate and converse with our external parties as well. So.
Wow, thank you so much for those insights, David. I think we are going to have to leave it there. I wish we had so much more time to talk, but as you said, hopefully next year we'll be able to do it face to face. Thank you again for your time and insights.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you again, Larkin and David, for a great Q&A. We'll now open up the floor for any questions. Please use that chat box to ask anything that you haven't asked during the session. And thanks again for attending this Frontier session. Hope we found it valuable. Talk soon.